Christmas Eve, 1945. The Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia, glowed with warmth and laughter. The war had ended only months earlier, and like so many families, George and Jenny Sodder wanted to give their 10 children a Christmas to remember. There was music, gifts, and the delicious smell of Jenny's homemade pastries. The older children helped the younger ones hang stockings and trim the tree. By midnight, the younger kids grew tired. But 5 of them begged to stay up late: Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny Jr., and little Betty. Their parents agreed, reminding them to turn off the lights and lock the doors when they finally went to bed. George and Jenny, along with the rest of the children, went upstairs to sleep. The house settled into silence. Outside, snow blanketed the yard. Inside, stockings swayed by the glow of Christmas lights. But in only an hour, that holiday joy would turn to horror. Around 12:30 a.m., Jenny awoke suddenly. At first, she thought she'd heard something hitting the roof, like a thump, followed by a rolling noise. She lay still, listening, but the sound faded. Moments later, the acrid smell of smoke filled the air. She rushed to the hallway and saw flames rising from George's office, located near the staircase. In panic, she screamed for George. Together, they roused the children. 4 escaped the house: John, George Jr., Sylvia, and Marion. But 5 others, the ones who had stayed up late to play with their Christmas toys, were trapped upstairs. George tried everything. He smashed a window, cutting his arm badly. He grabbed his ladder to climb to the 2nd story, but the ladder was gone. He sprinted to his coal trucks parked outside, intending to drive one beneath the window and climb up. But strangely, both trucks refused to start, though they'd worked fine the day before. The family shouted for help, but the phone was dead. A neighbor ran to. The Sodders expected tragedy. They expected to find their children's remains in the rubble. But when the ashes cooled, there was nothing. No bones, no teeth, no traces. Experts later confirmed that even in house fires, bones rarely burn completely. Temperatures high enough to cremate a body must be sustained for hours, far beyond what a short house fire could produce. Small animals burned in similar blazes still leave fragments behind. So where were the Sodder children? Authorities quickly declared that the children had perished, insisting that the fire had consumed their bodies entirely. But George and Jenny knew better. Something was wrong. Strange details began to surface. The ladder, the family's ladder, normally propped against the house, was later found discarded in a ditch. The phone line, it hadn't burned in the fire. It had been cut. The trucks, mechanics discovered both vehicles had been tampered with. The warning, just weeks earlier, a stranger visited George, telling him his house would go up in smoke and his children would be destroyed unless he stopped criticizing Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. And then there were the sightings. Multiple witnesses came forward, each telling a strange story. A woman claimed she saw the Sodder children peering from a passing car while their house still burned. Another, a waitress in Charleston, swore she served breakfast to 5 children who matched their description, accompanied by 2 unknown adults. Others reported seeing them in the company of Italian-American families in different towns, or even with suspected mafia groups. Each account was dismissed by police as unreliable, but to the Sodders, it was confirmation their children were alive. So what really happened that Christmas Eve? Kidnapping and mafia. Some believe the children were taken as part of a mafia scheme. George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini may have made him enemies in the Italian community. The fire could have been staged to cover their abduction. Human trafficking. Others suggest the children were taken and sold or adopted under new identities. Accidental death cover-up. Some argue the fire did kill them, but authorities mishandled the investigation and covered their mistakes. Insurance or revenge plot. George had rejected an insurance salesman who threatened that his house would burn. That same man later served on the coroner's jury, ruling the fire an accident. Each theory raises more questions than it answers. In their grief, the Sodders launched a desperate search. They distributed flyers across the country. They traveled to New York, Kentucky, and beyond, following rumors and tips. Most famously, they erected a massive billboard along Route 16. On it were the children's faces, their names, and the haunting question: what was their fate? Kidnapped? Murdered? Or are they still alive? The billboard stood for nearly 4 decades, a symbol of hope and despair. In 1968, 23 years after the fire, Jenny received an envelope postmarked from Kentucky. Inside was a photograph of a young man, strikingly similar to her missing son, Louis. On the back was a cryptic message: Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, ill boys, A90132 or 35. No one could ever trace the sender. The man in the photo was never identified. But to Jenny, it was proof her son had lived. George Sodder died in 1969. Jenny wore black for the rest of her life, mourning and waiting until her death in 1989. The surviving Sodder children continued the search, but today the mystery remains unsolved. Did 5 children vanish into the flames, or were they stolen into the shadows of history? The truth may never be known. But every Christmas Eve, when the story resurfaces, one family's tragedy continues to echo across time. This is the haunting mystery of the vanishing of the Sodder children.